Karl, was macht der tote Sachse da? Weiß nicht, rumheiden?
Everyone, it's that German guy with all the reviews, and this time I want to talk about this year, Landsknecht Emporium, Karl.
Karl!
Now, before we get to that though, formalities out of the way as per usual. There's one big caveat that I need to put up right front, and that is even beyond my usual caveat that I am quite friendly with Landsknecht Emporium, which is something that you need to keep in mind when I talk about their products. This here is actually something that I didn't pay for. I ordered it privately, but Landsknecht Emporium didn't send me a bill. I couldn't pay for it. Now, I got this as part of a larger deal that we have with Landsknecht Emporium, where we are doing some playtesting, and I hope we get to show some of that in the not-too-distant future. So that is something that you need to keep in mind when I talk about this piece. I'm quite friendly with Landsknecht Emporium, and this was sent to me for free. They were aware that there was going to be a review. It wasn't an explicit deal, but I've reviewed pretty much every other sort I got from them, so they were pretty aware of that. So keep that in mind. Other than that, the structure of the video is going to be the same as always. So after this part here, there will be my talky bit, where I go about just why did I get this, ordering process. Then there will be a picture with the stats. Then there will be more pictures, just, you know, to have this from different perspectives so you can look at it again, some fencing material so you can actually see it in motion. And there will, of course, be timestamps down in the description, so you can just jump to the different parts if you want to. Okay, with all of that out of the way then, let's just go on with the car, right? So, why did I get this? Well, I always kind of wanted one, actually. I've used one in the past. I've fenced against this. Other people in my club have it. And frankly, to be honest, I am more drawn to this kind of messer here, because that is kind of what we see in our Fechtbücher all the time. This is kind of the iconic messer shape that we all know and love, with the beak and everything. But the thing is, at an event, I think it was the Wintermesser meeting in the Netherlands, organized by, among others, by Oscar Termos of Virtuelle Fechtschule, there were talks by James Elmsley and the Landsknecht Emporium guys, and two things really stuck with me. And one was that if you want to just superficially define what a messer is, then you have kind of an easy job, because, you know, grip slaps, Nagel, tada, voila, it's a messer. But if you really get into the weeds, then things get real murky real fast, which led to kind of a meme where you can just pick up a fork and go, just, hey, is this maybe a messer? You know, it has grip slaps. The other thing is that while this here is the iconic shape that we all love, we actually have way more surviving pieces of messers like this, just straight ones, really. So always had it in the back of my mind, always kind of wanted one, and then just decided to order one. Not through their website, just by talking with them. So I can't really comment on that, but I've ordered through their website before and it worked perfectly fine. Delivery was by DHL Express, and, well, as I mentioned in the past, I think I live in kind of a good area for that, because I got it within a day, at the very max too. It's kind of ridiculous sometimes how fast they get to me. So your mileage may vary, but it always works out fine for me, really. So yeah, that's how this one got to me, really. Speaking of, what do we actually have here, just stats-wise? So we have an overall length of 89.5 centimeters, and of that, 16.5 centimeters is the grip, most of which you can use, and because of the beak, it's also easy to just hook into it and get a bit more mileage out of it, if these 16.5 centimeters shouldn't be enough. Nice thing about the grip is that it widens towards the beak, so when it comes to the width of the grip, we start at 24 millimeters, and then we go to 28, 31, and at the widest part it's 48 centimeters, which means that it's a nice and secure grip. You can't easily slip off it. Same with the actual thickness of it. It starts at 60 millimeters and then goes to 20 and then 24. The length of it also means that even if you use thicker gloves, you have ample room, and should you want to support with your other hand, you have some room left. Even with thicker gloves, as I mentioned, you can just kind of hook into the beak and use that. So that is really quite nice. Going to the cross, it's about 14 centimeters wide, which is nice. It strikes a nice balance between being protective but not overly so. It doesn't get in the way, which I like. The thickness of the material, it starts at about 10 millimeters and then it widens out to 16 at the part here. It's a similar picture with the Nagel, which goes out to about 5 centimeters. Nice for protection, but not overly long. And it also widens out. At the widest part, it's about 18 millimeters. So, it's quite nice. I like this construction. Going to the actual blade, then there's not much taper going on. It's a very straight blade. We basically start at 31 millimeters at the base, and then to the POB we go to 30 millimeters, and then it's 27 at the middle of the blade, and before it really moves to the point we are at 23. Really quite straight. Distal taper, we go to 5 millimeter, which is just the stock material, then go to 4 at the POB, then 4 at the middle. 3 is the thinnest the blade really ever gets, and then it widens out to the thickened point, which is again 5 millimeters. Speaking of the POB, it is at about, I think, 12.5-ish centimeters, around about 12.3 maybe. It's not always easy to tell. It's a nice POB. It's not too forward weighted to be uncomfortable, but it gives a nice messery feeling to it. It's a nice POB for just winding and binding, which if you do the Küchner kind of stuff, you generally want to do. The actual weight of the messer comes out at 810 grams about, which is, again, nice and light, not too light, not too heavy. It's really quite nice to move around. One thing that sticks out a bit compared to my Gottfried, especially the newer Gottfrieds as well, is the stiffness of the blade. So this one is not too stiff, but it is quite stiff compared to the other blades. It's not the most precise measurement, but if you put it down on a body weight scale and you press down on it until you can see a bend, then that comes out at about 14 kilograms. And that's maybe a good point to just move from stats to actual behavior, things I noticed, things I like, things I maybe didn't like. If you just see the bend and if you just hear 14 kilograms, you might think that this would be overly stiff and not particularly safe. Certainly wouldn't blame you for it, but honestly, it's not something that I noticed in fencing. There is flex there. You could put a rubber tip on it if you would want to make it a bit easier on your partner, depending on how you are with rubber tips. But if you compensate for it with your fencing, if you don't lock your arm out completely, if you don't go in like a berserker, this is still perfectly fine. I never had any negative impact, quite literally, with this. Fencing against it, because Ulrich has one as well, or using it myself, even when we were trying some more enthusiastic fencing, really. So it's perfectly fine. It is stiffer than the others, but yeah, it didn't feel bad. On the other hand, what you get for that stiffer construction is that I feel like this is probably the most sturdy blade, really. It's definitely one of the sturdier ones. It's more sturdy than the Gottfried, my old one. It's definitely more sturdy than the thin Gottfrieds, the modern ones, or the current ones, let's say. I don't think I ever really had to file anything out yet. And as I said, we tried some more enthusiastic fencing with it, really. It doesn't get nicked easily. Another thing I noticed in fencing, which I quite liked, is that, compared to my Gottfried, if you put them next to one another, they are kind of in the same ballpark, really. They are kind of similar. Not exact, but same-ish. But, and I know it's not just me because I talked to Ulrich about it, that when fencing, we are a bit more stabby with these here. It's some kind of weird black mesa magic going on that I can't really explain. Maybe it's because there's just even straighter than the Gottfrieds are, which just makes it feel like it would be better for thrusting. Maybe it's also the stiffness of the blade, because when you bind with less flex, you just have an easier time pushing your way through. It's a bit more lenient when it comes to getting the bind. You don't have to be in the optimal position to be able to get through. It's just you have a bit of an easier time sometimes. That might also play into it. It's just, fun observation, really. Overall, I would say I really, really like this one. Just, it's fun fencing with it. One thing you might have also noticed is that compared to the other Karls out there, this one has different colored grips, and that's not something that I did. It's something that I got from Landsknecht Emporium. I have badgered them about it in the past a bit because I always thought it would be interesting to maybe just color the grip slabs, but I didn't know if that was really possible, and their way, they weren't quite sure themselves, really. So we talked about it a bit, and with this one, when I ordered it for myself, I just went like, just try it. Try coloring the grip blue. I'm willing to be the guinea pig on this. If it doesn't work out, fair enough, but I'm just willing to see how it goes. And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, they did a great job. I really like how this looks. It's gorgeous, frankly. They're onto something there, and I hope they continue with it. It wasn't quite perfect. It bled out a bit more when it got to me. It colored my fingers a bit, but that washed out easy enough. Most of the times I'm using gloves anyway, so that's fine. They're black, no staining there at least. I mean, staining, yes, but you don't see it. Black gloves. And it held up fine. It bled out a bit. It's a bit lighter depending on where you look at, really. But yeah, I really like the look of it. And also, at least so far, it's something that's a bit unique, so I recognize my Karl, which is always nice, between all the other stuff that's lying around in class. So yeah, overall, I would say this is a nice mesa. I really like fencing with it. It's probably one of the sturdier ones. So if that is something that you're concerned about, maybe consider just going for a Karl instead of a Gottfried if you are a bit, indecisive between the two. Definitely a thumbs up for me. It's a great mesa, great construction, good quality. Like it. Cheers.
Karl, das tötet Sachsen. Oh, krass, das wusste ich nicht.